Guys, it's Manga time once again. I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 645, Don't Chase a Shadow. But before we begin, I'd just like to say I've actually started a vlogging channel. If you follow the annotation up here somewhere, it'll take you over there. I talk about games, movies, TV, myself, anything like that really. I'm new to this sort of thing, so if you want to jump over there and give me some support, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe even drop a subscribe if you like the footage that's already on there. I did just recently do a vlogging tour of the EGX Expo in London that happened at the weekend, where I got a chance to use the PlayStation VR headset, if that interests you at all. So yeah, if you want to see that sort of thing, please jump over there. I'd really appreciate the support. But let's get on with the review. So this week continues the battle between Shunsui and Lille Barrow, which is great news because I love Shunsui, and this should hopefully be a really great fight. So it starts off with Lille Barrow being... Well, Lil Barrow likes to think he's analytical, I think, but it's more he wants to be something of a know-it-all, but he doesn't tend to have the answers. As we saw when he was fighting Oetsu, he was like, oh yeah, I know what you're doing there, it's just a big trick, and then obviously he was wrong. But yeah, now he's trying to work out how Shunsui managed to teleport behind him, and he's like, well, what the hell happened? How did he manage to do that? And Shunsui's like, oh, don't tell me you've never played Daruma-san ga Koronda before. And Shunsui looks really good. Shunsui honestly has one of the best character designs in the series, if not, he has, in my opinion, by far the best captain design. There's just so many layers to his design. Every time Kubo draws him, it looks awesome. But yeah, Lil Barrow's like, what are you talking about? And Shunsui's like, well, the Quincy's do have a different culture to us, I suppose. They wouldn't necessarily know the game, which I like. I think that's cool. And this could very well be a clash of cultures fight. But anyway, Shunsui then says, I managed to get here all thanks to Nanao-chan over there, which I didn't really understand because that's not quite true. He gets there through Daruma Gakkoronda, so I don't quite understand what this is all about, to be honest. Nanao's like, there's no problem. But then Shunsui says, this is dangerous, don't please, return to the rest of the guys. And Nanao, of course, refuses, and then he says, tell them to go on without me. Which I think is interesting because it's his way of getting rid of her. Still, she prepares to leave, and she says, if you die before you can return, I'll shave the chest hair off your dead body. And Shinsui's like, no, don't do that because I'll lose my identity. And I think it's quite funny because obviously it's quite distinguishable that he has chest hair and obviously no one else does. But yeah, Nanao then leaves, and Shinsui's trying to do his very, very typical of Shinsui to kind of lull the enemy into a false sense of security with kind of banter and chat. And he's like, she's starting to sound a lot like Risa-chan these days. And Lil Barrow's not having any of this shit. He's just like, are you done yet? And Shinsui's like, how mean? I thought that was quite funny. I did like that. But, yeah, Lil Barrow's like, I have everything I need to know about you and your friends from the previous fights, from all of your previous battles. So I like that Lil has actually read the Daten, which hasn't come up in a while. And he says, that includes that Zanpakuto of yours, which has the ability to make children's games into reality. So was that one of them? And, Shinsui's like, I expected nothing less from the guards of the Soul Palace. Again, another very kind of almost underhanded jibe. But that's one of the things I love about Shinsui. And, he's like, that's right. But then he says, I suppose a rancor like yourself wouldn't play games like these. And I thought at first it was a translation error. But then later on down the line, on the very same page, Lil says something in Spanish, and I think maybe did Shunsui deduct that Lil was of Spanish heritage and then kind of tried to insult him by calling him a rancor? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, Shinsui's like, to play this game you need one person to be it and have their eyes shut while a countdown happens. The first person caught moving when the countdown ends loses. And then he explains, that the it has to be in a place where everyone can see him or her. And if the it catches anyone moving when he turns back, that person loses. If the other players touch the it before he or she catches then the player wins. So essentially, Shunsui was it. There was a countdown going on, and he saw Lil Barrow before the countdown ended. Lil technically lost. Although it's a little bit confusing because I presume Lil didn't technically touch Shunsui, because I think we find out later that Shunsui combined two games, but we'll get into that in a minute. So Lil Barrow says, so it's like escondite inglés, I think is how that's pronounced. I have no idea. I don't even know what the hell that means. I think inglés is like English or something like that, but I don't know. But yeah, anyway, so it's like maybe Shunsui did guess that he was perhaps of Spanish origin, but I don't know. Who knows? Shunsui then says, what, you have something similar? That was a waste of time then. And so, Lil continues to go on this thing that he thinks he's the best. He thinks he knows everything. He's like, so when you start that game, whatever the it does will become visible, huh? And he's like, so you make sure you tap it before it sees you. You've teleported towards me using the path that my Reiatsu attack left behind, all the while showing me the illusion that you've stopped. And I think it's interesting because what I think is going on here is Lille is incorrectly assuming that he was the it in the game, whereas I'm pretty sure it's actually Shunsui. But yeah, Lille's like, you might have rigged the game to suit yourself better. But he says, if what you say about me seeing you, he says, if I see you move, that equals your loss. If I'd seen through your illusion, you'd have been dead. And there's some really nice shadow work going on here, because Shunsui looks creepy as fuck with just his smile coming through his shadow. That's one of the best pictures of Shunsui actually I've ever seen, I think. And Lille looks awesome as well, the inverted tattoo on his eye kind of now being white in the darkness as well. That's really cool. That's a nice little touch. Makes me think maybe he's wearing glow-in-the-dark paint. But Shunsui's like, oh, that's right, I'm glad you can't jump fast. So maybe Lille was right about him being the it, but I personally thought it made more sense being Shunsui, but I don't know, whatever. But yeah, Lil Barrow says, are you sure you're not making a mistake by telling me the rules of your game? You can't use this on me again. And Shunsui says, that's not true. We get another awesome, sinister picture, and this goes back to what I was saying before about Shunsui, I think last week, that I love the way Shinsui's demeanour just changes from being that kind of flippant, flamboyant, oh, she's starting to sound like Lisa, oh, that's mean of you, to this super sinister, shadowy, with a creepy smile kind of guy. And he says, it's precisely because we both know the rules that this can be called a game, no? And I love that, that's a cool line. And Lil was also quite shadowy, and he's like, great. But yeah, Shunsui says, there's something you got wrong, though. That what you just saw wasn't an illusion, you were actually looking at me. And basically, Shunsui comments that Lil Barrow made a mistake. It does get a little bit confusing here, but this is what I'm pretty sure he means. That feeling when you feel another person's Reiatsu is apparently called Reikaku. And everyone that uses Reiatsu in the battle has this subconscious ability to use both their sight and Reikaku to detect another person. So you have two ways of finding someone. Eyes and using their Reiatsu, essentially. The more one focuses in a battle, the stronger Reikaku comes compared to sight. And Shunsui's basically saying that because you're a powerful opponent, you've been subconsciously using Reikaku to find me, rather than your actual sight. Shunsui is saying he left his Reiatsu there to trick Lil Barrow into thinking he was there, because he knew that Lil Barrow would be using Reikaku, not his actual sight. And Lil Barrow's like, that's impossible, there's no way to make a mistake like that. And I like this bit. Shinsui's like, it's a mistake, who do you think I am? And he's like, I'm the captain commander of the Gotei 13 Shunsui Kyoraku. And it's a really badass pit. It was just a really awesome picture of Shunsui looking creepy as hell. But also powerful as hell as well. I really like it. This should be a really good fight. Because Shinsui's just awesome. And Lil's like, oh crap. As if he didn't know, which I think is odd. But it's possible the Daten doesn't extend to what's been going on in this arc, so I don't know. Shunsui leaps behind, he then kind of darts to the side of Lille, to which Lille then snaps off the broken part of his barrel and turns his gun into a sort of shotgun or something like that, I reckon. But Shunsui then tries to do Daruma Sangak Oronda again, but before he can actually activate it, Lil Barrow immediately catches him off guard, and he's like, oh, this way. And Shunsui's trying to attack him, but Lil Barrow says, I told you this wouldn't work on me again. He blasts Shunsui in the chest. But apparently it's another illusion. Basically, Lil then notices something is coming up behind him, and he jumps off the floor just as Kageoni strikes. Seriously, Katen Kyokotsu is such an awesome Zanpakuto, and I love the picture of Lil kind of just leaping out of the way. It's really cool as the illusion Shunsui just disappears. Seriously, this is going to be a really, really tricky fight for Lil. Although he does prove that he's actually able to counter Kageoni very well at the moment now, because as Shunsui jumps out of the shadow behind Lil, Lil blasts the shadow. And, Shinsui's like, nice one, no one's ever found my Kageoni on the first try. And Lil says, I have everything I need on you and your friends from the fights before. And then Lil reveals that he managed to actually blast a hole through Shinsui's foot. Shunsui is having a really rough time with gunmen in this arc. But basically what happened is, Shinsui's ability is the ability to blast through anything, to pierce anything. That literally includes blasting through Shinsui's shadow and hitting his foot. Which is crazy. That's crazy, but it helps Lil be more powerful, I suppose. And Lille's like, you have nothing on our abilities. And Shunsui says, I don't think it's a bit unfair that you're not telling me anything. But again, I love the way Shunsui is like that. And Lille says, I wasn't looking for a fair fight, and I don't think telling you this would make it any fairer. Which is good, because, Lille doesn't mess around. But he says, I'm Sternmer to X, the X-axis, Lille Barrett. Although for some reason Manga Reader calls it the Exorcist again. And he said, my power is the power to pierce through anything. And then for some reason his eye starts doing this glowy thing. I don't know if it's just an artistic effect or something like that. But, he's like, evaded, you say? You never stood a chance. And he blasts Shunsui in the chest again. To which Shunsui reveals it was another illusion. There's a cool picture of Lille kind of just standing there like that as Shunsui's behind him. And he's like, were you chasing shadows again? And he's like, you're making that weird, how did he get there face again. But don't worry, I didn't actually evade it, you just shot another illusion. And he says, I call this one Gakeo Kuri, the ability to make a shadow so real, the more one looks at it, the more someone of your Reikaku looks at it, the more real it becomes. So now Shunsui can also, wow, that's a bright light suddenly. There we go. So now the more Shunsui can, the more someone looks at Shunsui's illusion, the more real it becomes. So I think that's what Shunsui did earlier. He fused Gakeo Kuri with Daruma Gakaronda. That's going to get him out. That's going to become a mouthful. In order to essentially make a real illusion be it. So Lille saw it, but technically it wasn't Shunsui, and then Shunsui was able to get up behind him. I think that's probably what happened. But yeah, we're going to get to the last page, and Shunsui's like, the scary thing about a child's game is the part where you don't exactly know where it begins or what it's even like. You could be really prepared for it, but all it takes is just one move for you to end it. You're dragged in whether you like it or not. And there's a very cool panel, I think, I'm just going to guess that's Katen Kyokotsu's hand holding Shunsui's hand. It's definitely Shunsui's hand. The sun is really starting to piss me off. It's definitely Shunsui's hand, because... you've got the hair on it, and that's obviously Shunsui. So it could be Katen Kyokotsu. And then we get another super sinister panel of Shunsui with a very creepy smile saying, you can't back out of this anymore. So let's play until one of us drops, shall we? And that's just such a cool line. That's such a nerve-wracking line, and you see Lille Barrow kind of scowling angrily. But that's such a good line. It's such a very, very cool line. What a way of getting under Lille Barrow's skin. But that's the end of the chapter, guys. There's not an awful lot to say, really, in regards to kind of the inner workings of the chapter, because it was mostly just Shunsui explaining a couple more games to Lille, and Lille attempting to kind of get his head around them while the fight continues. But the fight's looking like it's going to be really good. There's no more waiting around. We're straight into it, straight into using Katen Kyokotsu, straight into Kageoni, all that sort of thing. I'm super excited again for next week. I liked Miuri versus Panada a lot. If this fight is similar to that, but with Shunsui, then hell yes, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be hype. It's going to be so much better. Whether or not Shunsui will use his Bankai, I don't know. I still would have honestly thought Shinji would have taken over this fight, but it could be that Shunsui takes it all the way. Especially since now that his games have been activated, there does not seem to be any way of getting out of it unless you lose or win. So yeah, it could be this is going to be Shunsui's big fight, although I would be surprised if he didn't fight again. So he might even get a Bankai out of this fight, which adds to the excitement factor even more. I'm going to drop a 4 on this week's chapter, guys. I really liked it. Seeing Shunsui do his thing is just always awesome. The artwork was impeccable. Creepy face Shunsui is just always a win. And seeing like Kageoni and all that sort of thing again was just totally awesome. Whether he'll use Ironi again, that'd be kind of neat. That'd be a nice callback to Stark. But yeah, that's it. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of this week's chapter. Do you like this fight so far, and are you excited for what's to come? Do you think it's going to be awesome or not? Let me know in the comments, please. I'd really appreciate it. As always, guys, please do subscribe to my videos. Again, I'd super appreciate that too, and give the video a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. But let me know in the comments below, do you think Shunsui will use a Bankai in this fight? Until next time, guys, see you later.